Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's Jack with Stronghold Strength and Conditioning. And today, I've got 10 bodyweight hip strengthening exercises for stability that require no equipment at all. But before we get into that, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Thursday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injury, and overall optimize your performance. And it really doesn't get much cooler than that, so go ahead and click it. Ready? Let's dive into it. All right guys, the topic of the day, 10 bodyweight hip strengthening exercises for stability, no equipment necessary at all. And there's one thing I want you guys to really understand before we dive into these exercises today. It's that stability is a component of our overall mobility. Stability makes up the part where we have neuromuscular control and the actual strength of the musculature that surrounds a joint. So we're looking at our ability to actually control the hip today and keep it in a good stabilized position in different positions that we'll be working in. You'll see there's quite a few varieties that we can actually work from, and you guys will have a lot of options from this video. The key thing here is that if one of our components of mobility, flexibility, range of motion, or stability are lacking, then we lack overall mobility, or it's a mobility issue. If you guys have mobility struggles, what I want you to do is take a moment and drop by the description down below and grab 7 days of free mobility training that I already have programmed out for you. They're 15-minute sessions that you can take advantage of, no equipment necessary at all, and it's all guided, and you can do it on a mobile app, you can do it on your computer, you can do it on a pad, whatever you guys have that you need to do it from, it has that option. So you can do that course, 15-minute sessions, 7 days, and it'll give you a nice start to take a look at where your mobility is lacking and where it could be improved and what might be some of the root causes to aches and pains that you might have, or even things that could be putting you at risk that you're unaware of currently, risk of injury in the future here. So take advantage of that, and let's dive into these hip strengthening exercises. The glute bridge. Now this is one of the most essential exercises I feel we need to get down here, guys. It's called a glute bridge for a reason. So we're setting up so the shoulders are rolled down and back. My lumbar spine is flat to the floor here. And when I drive up, my heels, first of all, are close to my butt. My knees are gonna drive open as my hips drive high. That's gonna engage all three gluteal muscles. We wanna make sure that we do that. The hips go high, the knees drive wide. Now the key is that I'm not feeling my quads or hamstrings trying to overtake the glute bridge here. A lot of times if there's dysfunction in the movement, we're gonna feel something other than the glutes. It should pretty much be all glutes incorporated here. Now, the next level up would be a single leg glute bridge. Now, obviously we're taking out some of the stability here from the other leg, but we still want a similar setup. So my knee of the foot that's planted is still driving wide. My lumbar spine is still coming back flat to the mat. My knee of the other leg is driving toward my chest. So I'm actually pulling that up as high as I can using my hip flexors, which is kind of cool because we're getting both the glutes on one side and the hip flexors on the other side here. The last variety is actually going to be a glute bridge march. So I'm holding the glute bridge and actually transitioning. You'll see a little shift at my pelvis as the weight transitions from side to side, but we really want to try and minimize that as much as possible. Sissy. So here we're going to be working our quadriceps a lot, and this is the most basic version. My toes are tucked under, I'm placing my hands back behind me to assist in the movement, but I'm driving the hips high off of my heels, and each time hinging back so my hips come back to my heels. It's not a very big range of motion, but it works on the relationship between the glutes and the quads. To make it harder, you're going to take those hands out of it from the assistance and just use the hip motion. Now, we're gonna take it into a different position as well where I'll get a little deeper range of motion here, and that's a plantar flexed foot. So now you'll see I'm automatically lower to the floor. And this is a true seiza here, sitting with the feet in plantar flexion, and I'm getting as low as I can to those heels. First, start assisted. This is our first step. We wanna get those hands behind us, get a little bit assisted in that deeper range of motion, and we should feel that transition into the hips again. And finally, take the hands out of it and go all glutes and quads here. The bent knee side plank. First, we're gonna start with a basic hold here. Rolled shoulder blades down and back, abs engaged, obliques engaged, and the glutes engaged, hips driving forward with the knees apart. To make it a little bit harder, we're gonna add some repetition. So we're gonna hinge at the hip, bring the knees together, and we perform a clamshell at the same time as performing that side plank, driving the hips forward, opening the knees, and getting those glutes engaged. That ensures we get all three gluteals engaged in this position. To make it a slight bit harder, we can actually do hip cars, and cars are short for controlled articular rotations, and I can rotate forward and backwards in this position. But I want to make sure that I'm really testing the full range of the hip capsule on that top hip while the bottom hip is stabilizing me. So there's a lot of work going on and a lot of focus to be done here. So if you're not quite ready for that, start with the first two. Last variety, you can use a chair or your sofa to do this one, but we're going to place the inner knee and the inner thigh on that couch cushion on that sofa so that we can perform the side plank with a little bit of a hip dip and raise, getting the adductors involved. The active 90-90. So here we want to set up with both knees in a 90-degree angle, one bent out front, one bent to the back. So we're looking at hip external rotation and internal rotation. The first move we're doing here is called an airplane, and I'm trying to lean over my chest toward my shin in that position. You're really going to feel the glutes engaged there to help get down into that position. Try and keep length through the spinal column. The second position that we want to do is actually plant the hands out front. I will have a slight lean forward, and then we're working on active internal rotation of the back leg here, and I'm trying to actively pull that foot from the floor. It'll feel like my smallest toe is trying to touch my shin there. Next, we have the single leg deadlift. So this is a bent knee variation. You'll see the leg that I'm balancing on, I have a slight bend to, and that's gonna help load the hamstrings and the glutes. I wanna keep that knee in line with my middle and smallest toes, making sure that it doesn't try and cave in toward my big toe on the planted leg. In the top position, I'm driving my knee toward my chest, standing up tall and really straightening the leg back out each time. We want a nice neutral plane here in this position, so we're trying to hold as level as possible. And we're really reaching the back leg back as well, extending through the glutes in that leg and quads in that leg. Now on this variety, we're showing a straight leg version. So here we're trying to keep a more linear line through the leg here, and it's more of a hip hinge strict from the hip itself. Now, we're working on overall balance and coordination. We want a tripod foot in all of these positions. So we want to make sure that I have 3 points of contact from the foot, the first metatarsal, the fifth metatarsal, and the heel. And you'll notice that my arm positioning is very similar amongst all of them as well. I keep my shoulder blades down and back and my upper back engaged with my chin tucked toward my chest. The most difficult variety here that we're going to show is an airplane. And I'm going to twist that airplane in both directions, trying to open up as far as I can and close as far as I can without losing balance and throwing myself off in this position. Especially opening up here, you're going to notice a lot of work at the glutes going on to help in that rotation from that position. But I want to see if I can maintain that balance as I come back to that full standing position. Once again, in that full standing position, we want to make sure that the knee is not bending. We want to push through the floor so the quads are engaged, the glutes are engaged, and I'm standing up as tall as I possibly can in that position. Next is a staggered stance good morning. Here I want to place my foot heel to toe literally in line with one another so that we're standing on basically a tightrope here. This is naturally going to help the glutes engage accordingly because we have the knees needing to open up away from one another a little bit to create space. Now one shin you'll notice is vertical as the other one hinges back, and it's impossible to get down without a full hinge here. So this is a great way to learn how to hip hinge. Keeping a neutral spine is essential to this position. The split lunge. So in this one, I'm going to start with a nice split stance here. You'll notice a triangle between my legs and the floor. Both legs I want to try and straighten out as much as I can, and with my hands there, I'm making sure that I have a little bit of posterior pelvic tilt so that my glutes are engaged. We want the movement to feel like I'm literally going straight up and straight down, no shift. Both legs sharing equal weight here. Shoulder blades rolled down and back, abs engaged. The next variety is elevated. So we're actually working through a bigger range of motion here. What you can do is place some 2x4s down or whatever you have at home to give yourself some elevation on each foot. We want just enough width that it makes it easy for me to get down in that same vertical up and down position without much change going on there. To make it a little bit harder, we're actually going to go single leg balance here into a reverse lunge. So you'll see that I'm working in some balance coming from the position of a static position to a dynamic position now. It'll help to actually coordinate opposite arm to leg as you're working in this position. This is going to move with some functional movement patterning here, so we're tying in those fascial lines that work together, and you'll actually notice a great improvement in stability overall because of that. Once again, in that top balanced position, push through the floor, get those quads engaged, get the glutes engaged, make sure we're going as vertical as possible here. The final position that we're going to work from is actually a negative. So once again, you could use steps, you could use a couch at home, a chair at home, but what I want to work on, still with that opposite arm to leg movement, is lowering myself to lightly tap the floor. The key is that I'm not putting down weight at all in this position. I want to just feel the floor and then keep the weight off of that foot so I'm not driving or pushing up. It's amazing how much help your toes can give you to get back up in that position. All right, guys, this is a fun one. I call this a pigeon lunge. So essentially we're elevating that leg at the edge of your couch or chair and engaging the glutes, lowering into that depth and then raising back up through the back leg, but also helping from the glutes on that front leg, which is in external rotation. All right, we went from downright unusual to pretty standard, your air squat. So in the air squat, when we are not loaded up, you're gonna go to full depth here. And you'll notice at the full depth that I do get a little bit of what's called butt wink at the bottom. And that is because I'm hitting full depth of a squat here. My feet are planted with a tripod, 3 points of contact on each foot here. First metatarsal, fifth metatarsal heel. My knees are driving wide. The squat actually starts with a little hinge, so the first movement of your squat should be hips back and then pulling yourself into the bottom. Here I'm going to add a little variation where I actually shift my weight from side to side, still keeping the tripod. So we're working a little internal, external rotation on those hips in that deep hip flexion position. My shoulder blades are rolled down and back. You'll notice a nice straight line pretty much through my spinal column as we work here. Every time coming back to tight glutes, tight quads, and a nice tall positioning. And our last exercise, the Shin Box. In this position, I want to start with one foot in toward the inner thigh of the other leg, with the other leg pretty much bent in that 90-90 position that we had. I'm driving up through the hips, working on that shin of the leg out front, trying to push my hips as far forward as I can in that position each time. Now this one's nice because I can do a variation here. And I'm going to take, and starting in a straddle position, move into that shin box position, and then transition into a lunge by swinging the back leg out front and standing up from there. I'll repeat, reverse the process back down, coming all the way back down into that shin box position. And it's a nice variety to start to learn how to get up from the floor and get down to the floor without having to use your hands. If you have the strength to do this, you're in pretty good shape here. But if not, you start in the basic shin box position and combine it with your split lunges. Eventually, you're gonna build up that strength. All right, there you guys have it. 10 bodyweight hip strengthening exercises for stability that require no equipment at all. And really, it was something like 20 some varieties there. So you guys got a lot of options to scale based off of where you're at today, the difficulty level that you need, and really you should visit all of them and make sure you got those mechanics and basics down even. So touch on all of those. You got 20 some options there. Take advantage of them. If you guys like this video, make sure you let me know by clicking that big thumbs up down below, and take a moment to share these with a friend that might have some weakness in their hips. This is one of the most important areas of our body, especially when it comes to our overall mobility. So remember, if you've got stability issues at any of your joints, that's strength or neuromuscular control issues, that's an issue for mobility overall. And take advantage of those 7 free days of mobility that I've already programmed out to you. Remember, it's down below in the description, and just follow that link, register, and you got access to that course immediately. So jump on into it and enjoy it. Let me know if you have any questions about it. If you guys have questions about this video, make sure you drop those down below in the comments and let me know which one was one of your toughest, or if you have anything with the form that you're worried about or concerned about, just let me know. And last but not least, if you have not already, make sure you take a moment and click that subscribe button. Every Thursday I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance. And it really doesn't get much better than that, so jump on it. Welcome to the Stronghold Army. We'll see you guys next week.